Hey, it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful empowered harmonizers. And we are zooming in and focusing in today on a very sweet and sentient viewer comment. And that was that she feels like this covert narcissist, this spouse in her life, does not really know her. And when we really, and she feels bad because she feels like the gulf is growing between them. The ripples of emotion and time are growing so vast and wide that she feels like there's such a communication breakdown that they don't really know her. And this is very, I would say, a very typical pattern or experience from those people who have been in a victimized position, a supply source to these individuals who have been close to them. And that is really the fact that the covert narcissist is indeed underneath it all, despite their appearance of being cool, calm, suave, sophisticated, sort of having this quiet strength or demeanor and being sort of in the recesses or background and withholding or withdrawing of emotion. It's really the fact that underneath it all, they have very little ego testing or ego reality, meaning that they are not very good at getting to know other people. They are not your relationship leaders. They might be, very well educated. They might have a great job. They might have all these other trappings of success, but underneath it all really is the insecurity on this personality type to not be secure with getting to know other people. They don't have ego reality testing. In other words, they don't have the ability, because of their inflated or bloated sense of self-importance or superiority, and then coupled with a sort of a lack of empathy, it does create a natural gulf, river, or rift between them and then interfacing, and getting to know other people on that heart-to-heart, belly-to-belly, toe-to-toe level. Meaning that they're not able to sort of put aside themselves. Their insecurity is like a chronic toothache. M. Scott Peck, those people who suffer insecurity and have a pathological, lying to themselves. Really, M. Scott Peck feels that all mental illness, all disorder, is rooted in the concept of pathological lying, whether it's lying to others or lying to oneself, which is really profound when you really look at that. That's an awesome statement, because really, in essence, it's the covert narcissist is really sort of lying to themselves. They're putting out this fluff. They're putting out this air. They're holding the title. They're holding the family status, the rank. How they're perceived by others is really kind of like their coattails, if you will. Like if you're, and so they're basically going through the relationships riding on the coattails of their ego. Meaning it's their authority, their built-in title as father, spouse, what have you, or their money, or whatever other trappings. But when it actually comes to the behaviors of the interacting, of getting to know others, of putting aside their ego, putting aside their status, putting aside their label of, and then kind of coming down to level with others, getting to know how others are doing, even if it isn't all rosy, hunky-dory. Can they put aside their own emotions? Can they get to know others and interact with them and validate them, or lift them up, support and nurture from where they're at? Or are they not very good at this, getting to know with others, getting to know and interacting and making the relationship a balance, the law of reciprocity, the give and take, being able to receive as well as give on equal and clear communication. So the covert narcissist really has, I would feel in my viewpoint, really an inability to connect with others based on their lack of empathy, and then coupled with their pathological self-importance, which creates this undergirding feeling of something is kind of awry here, but we're not addressing it. Something is, profoundly wrong, even though we have this, that, the other thing. There's something really gravely wrong and we're not addressing it. What is it? And so people end up going through years and decades with this type of personality, with this sort of sneaky undergirding feeling, but yet it can't be addressed. And then this feeling is then what's stored in the body and it's never released. So that's why there's the carrying of this into your identity, your I am, your other relationships, how far and where you go in life. And really it's sort of, it's the false persona appearing real, the facade, and then underneath there's a complete disconnect or cognitive dissonance between the status and really, sort of behaviors in these other pockets of their relationships. And yes, everybody has their own struggles, their own areas of weakness or needing to grow. And it's so important to emphasize your strengths in life and then minimize your weakness. But yet there's also a time to call into awareness and handle your weakness, whether your weakness is overeating, drinking, drugging, spending, etc. You need to be able to kind of look at it and say, hey, you know what, maybe I can do better here. Maybe I can be responsible and accountable. Maybe I can take the time to listen and get to know others, that this is not a threat. But yet, to the narcissist, really, what's very interesting is, despite the appearance of their bloated ego, their talent, how they put themselves out there, sort of the show face. Despite the show face, underneath, there's a feeling of insecurity or a feeling that, they don't need to do or be accountable for specific things. Yet, in essence, when that is really oftentimes what life calls for, it's really kind of like, that's not my job. If you've ever gone into a store and, asked for someone where that is, that's not my job, that's not my department. It's like they don't care less. When they could take a moment and quote unquote go out of their way and then help you, assist you, as would be, the protocol or policy perhaps for that store, it's kind of like they just don't get involved. They just sort of, they just sort of, shrug it away. And so that is a real issue, is that because of that undergirding sense of insecurity, they never get to test out a reality testing and deal with their weaknesses. So what you don't, work with, especially if it's a weakness, if you don't attend to it, if you don't keep it under constraint, it'll tend to grow. Alcoholism unchecked will get worse. Drug use unchecked will get use. Addictions not attended to will get worse. Overeating not attended to will get worse. What was the other one? We had a member who had, a wife who was like a shopaholic. And it went unchecked and it got worse. To the point where their whole garage was filled up. He could not even fit in his vehicle. So he had to call his friends to get rent a truck to pull this stuff out. There was stuff with tags, Christmas gifts had never been opened. It was just really, really severe. And so there's this overcompensating, this addiction, the dopamine that comes from these behaviors, which causes a lack of dealing with reality, lack of dealing with things. And it's not, it can be little things that, a mogul grows into a mountain. And so it is really this inadequacy or this weakness or perhaps this total inability of the covert narcissist to really do that. Yet, if it was, brought up to you, hey, you're drinking and you're feeling sick the next day and the house is a mess and the bills aren't paid and you don't have a job. Eventually there would have to be some accountability addressed. So it's like keeping it in check. So oftentimes the role of the supply or the victim in this case, because they're not able to set aside themselves and their ego best needs, they're not able to do reality testing and sort of put aside their feelings of inadequacy or feelings of judgment and being able to just listen and get to know others. So they don't ever get a chance to test it. Just say, hey, maybe I can get to know this person. Maybe I can get to hear them out. Maybe I can hear their needs. Maybe it isn't that bad. Maybe it isn't that threatening. Maybe, I can deal with this. Maybe I can protect, myself and still be okay and still be respected and perceived for my status and who I am, but yet get to know or hear out this other person. Really, there's a feeling the gulf grows deeper, the gulf grows wider between people as time grows if you're not able to listen to them, if you're not able to hear kind of where they're coming from. And not always, the covert narcissist is kind of like, the feeling is that it always has to be kind of on their terms, their time frame, and there's always a feeling of they're always trying to hedge you out, meaning, they're if you don't have any empathy, you're not able to really sort of have that heart-to-heart, belly-to-belly, toe-to-toe conversation. You're always sort of being in a position of controlling an other. And if you're constantly controlling others, you're not giving them the opportunity or the choice to be themselves in your presence, so there cannot be an authentic exchange. The narcissist is always trying to control the dynamics. They're always trying to control the dialect, if you will. They're always trying to control the terms of engagement. So there's always this feeling of restriction. And then anything under restriction or constriction eventually begins to feel limited. So you're in essence limited by this individual. So the limits are and restrictions are imposed from without, meaning outside of you rather than within. But if you've had a relationship with this individual when you are younger or immature or emotionally less mature and you weren't aware of this, then you started to absorb these restrictions as your own. And then your I am became focused and centered around the negative than around the positive. So instead, you define yourself by what you're not rather than what you are. You define yourself by who you're not rather than who you are. You define yourself by what you don't have rather than what you have. So it's a definition by lack and not about the positive. So it's important in the healing, to get to know yourself. Plato, know thyself. It seems so simple, yet it's so profound. That just like the music of the Beatles, it was so simple, yet it was so wildly amazing. Oftentimes some of the best music was so simple, but it really struck a heart chord. It was the flow of the notes. It was the, emotional triggers that basically elicited the feelings of love, of getting along, etc. And so it is to know then that it's important for you then to what you've been trying to give or struggle outside to rein it in and drop that and just let it go completely and do a complete shift, a complete 360 and say, it's time for me to be myself. It's time for me to define myself by the positive. It's time for me to love what I have. It's time for me to appreciate what I have. It's time for me to stop everything and take care of where I'm at and then embrace the stillness. The stillness, the aloneness is your autonomy. It is your freedom. It does not mean I'm alone, I'm isolated, I'm unlovable. It means your autonomy. It means your independence. It means your freedom. It means everything that you've been looking for, but you've been defining in the negative based on this relationship. The narcissist, in my feeling, is that they are the most destructive because it causes you to go through life, go through moments, go through holidays, go through weeks, go through your career, go through your relationships based on the I am not versus the I am, based on the I don't versus the I can, I will, I am. It's based on the you are not good enough versus that I am good. It's complete definition of the feeling that I am crazy, I'm not sane, I don't have what it takes versus I do have what it takes. I don't belong to I do belong. I can do versus I can't do. It's really your life, your purpose becomes like you don't know what your interests are, you don't know what your purpose is, you don't know your life path because you've been defining it by this other person's eyes, as we're saying, by their judgment, by their invalidation, which causes what's known in psychology as negative validation. You're defined by the I am not versus the I am. So it's time for you to become aware of this and appreciate what you have, who you are, what your strengths are, and get to know your interests. Get to know your wants. Get to know what you have. It'll give you a good tip and clue of who you are so you have a positive foundation to go from. The I am, as simple as it is one of the most powerful statements that you can make. I think, therefore I am. This is, some of the most profound stuff that has been around, but yet it is swept under the rug. It is swept out of existence for lack of other things, other Facebooks. It's the Facebooks of the world are oftentimes can be very distracting in my viewpoint as of, who you are. It's check out everybody else, but what about me? And then can I present myself, so that it's bloated and then it's, all this, and I can only take, 100 snapshots to make me look good, and I'm only going to send out the best one, and is this good enough, and do I have enough likes, and that whole rigmarole. And Facebook is a lovely organization, but yet it's also very hurtful for a lot of people, a lot of young people, a lot of couples, a lot of older people who are in a struggle with this. So it's important for you to let go and abandon that race 100%. And then to understand the damage that has occurred at that deep cellular spiritual level. The spirit can never be damaged. The spirit is infinite. The spirit goes on. And so all that ego base is nothing more than a confabulation in the creation of the matrix of that relationship. It's nothing more. And so the leaders of the world see through that. The true leaders of the world know through that. They know that all that judgment is nothing but a confabulation of that judgment. And those people who buckle down to it are the people who can't stand. They can't stand for themselves in the positive. They can't find where their life is drawing them. They can't find what the positive that they're drawn to and then stay with it long enough to be able to reap the rewards. You have to stay with the I am long enough to reap the rewards. How long will it take peace and harmony? It might take 6 months. It might take 12 months. It might take 18 months. It might take a while, and all of a sudden, things will click. You'll begin to find that person. You'll begin to find that job. You'll begin to find that interest. You'll begin to then grow, and then you'll begin to relax. You'll begin to say, aha, I am good enough. I exist. I am caring. I am loving, and that is enough. And even though that couldn't be reality tested with this person, it's because it's meant to be reality tested first within your own heart and then with the greater world at large. The world, your country, is your family, not just this little microcosm. Blow it out to life itself. Your family is out there. It's time for you to see, like they say, your brothers and sisters, your mother, your father, your mentors. It's so important. That's why I feel in the recovery, really no matter where you're at in life, is to have a mentor. Find someone who you look up to. It can be a person that you know or you don't know. It can be a movie star. It can be a musician. It can be a scientist. It can be a religious figure. Someone who you look up to. And then also write out their characteristics and their qualities and why do you admire this person? What is it about this person that you look up to? And then write it down. You need to write it down because if you just think it, your thoughts might dissipate in 5 seconds and then it hasn't really registered. It hasn't really been comprehended. It hasn't been brought to life, reality tested within you. So you need to be able to write down What is it about this person that I really admire? What is it that's really magnificent? What's really about this person that's miraculous? Yes, there are miracles in life. It's about time for us to embrace that unseen, that, that magnificent future, that quantum field, and to understand that there is something there that is calling for us spiritually to sort of shed that old deadened skin of the old self, the false self, the I am not, and just break through that like a shell, like like the husk of a corn to get to the corn underneath. It's time for you to peel away that to get to the fruit. That is the candy, that is the sweetness of the soul. That is what you should be addicted to, is the I am, the I have, the I want, the I am. And begin to define yourself around that positive essence, that positive core. I am loving. I am creative. I am inspired. I am inspiring. I am caring. I am focused. I am organized. If you can begin around this positive I am, regardless of this covert narcissist, you'll begin to find the growth and proliferation of your inner self. So in other words, it'll be the opening up. I am physically fit. I am a dancer. I am an artist. I am a spiritual helper. I am a healer. I am a leader. I am a manager. I'm a supervisor. Whatever it is then that begins to grow from that sweet essence is who you are. And through your heart, seeing through your heart only and not their eyes. Let them go on their merry way, no matter where they've been for you in your life, and come to yourself and begin to really affirm that, live in positive affirmation, and begin to appreciate what you have, not only in your life, but your qualities. Appreciate what you have and begin to focus in on that, because what you focus in on grows, and then that's what will manifest the good life. That's what will manifest the easy life. That will manifest your bucket of gold. That's what will manifest the whole spectrum of your relationships, your your health, your abundance, your spirituality, your interests. All those different spectrums of a fulfilled life will begin to jet set as soon as you really live in that space and affirm that space. But you have to keep up with it long enough. You have to stay on the path. The recovery journal should be looked at daily. This is like your, number one subject. This has to be your number one commitment. It has to be, it is what you are. It will bring everything that you've been pining after. You need to embrace it. You need to validate it. You need to speak it up. You need to amp up the volume and realize then that you need to then get to know yourself, be yourself, and then, you need to do this autonomously, independently, on your own. You're not isolated. You're not lonely. You're not unlovable. You're not just, trapped in your house and an invalid. No, that is a process of being victimized. It is then integrating that experience within yourself and then realizing the cause that's created this effect. Okay, that's over there. This is what I have inside. This is what's real. Then you have to make your inner reality what is the reality in the positive. And then once you get that little flame strong enough and you keep it going autonomously, then you bring that out into the world. I deserve. I want. I am capable. I am good enough. I am love. I am lovable. And then as soon as you know these in your heart, 100%, then you can then incorporate it and integrate it with others, and you'll begin to have that good life. The relationships, people will get to know you. You will get to know others and not feel threatened. You will not feel the hurt plaguing all of your relationships in your life. That hurt will heal. It will heal away. But you can't keep entering it for fear of success. You can't keep going back to the bottle. You can't keep going back to the abuser. You can't keep going back to the negative, feelings. You can't let that run your life. The I am, you need to give it some concerted effort. You need to speak it up. You need to get to the podium and say, I am. I'm a singer. I'm a dancer. I'm a writer. I'm a healer. I am. I love animals. I am, a steward of the earth. There is a place for you. There is an I am for you. It is waking up and getting to know yourself. Know thyself, like Plato stated. Get to know this, despite this, despite the Facebook, despite the whatever that is, distracting you from that, or is creating this feeling and triggering feeling of the I am not. Let that go. Shed that like the husk of the corn. Get to know the inner seed within you. Emphasize your astralmations, the I am, and then follow it. Then not only begin to repeat that first until you really have a sense of I am. You need to, if it's 1,000 times, perfect. That's not too many. Begin to do that, and then begin to follow it with defined by the positive, and then begin to physiologically change it up so it's into motion, your behaviors, and then you'll incorporate that into your relationships, and you'll really get to know what healing is. It's your buddy, peace and harmony with you here today. I hope that these videos do help. Please share and please subscribe for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Love you. Peace out.